I have said it before, but $1 billion idea is Riverside, but it remembers your settings.
Yes. Yes.
Riverside, but
Yes.
it Riverside, but you don't want to use your microphone as your output and your AirPods as the input, and everything is upside down and weird and just what I used last time. So all I'm asking.
Man, and I would like to retain using HD video, and I would like the sound to actually be nice. And there's a bunch of things. I just tweeted. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
I don't
In
know what
other
it
news,
is. In
I just
other news,
I just had a caterpillar on my shoulder that I had to take out in
nice.
the garden.
So it was the great Danish Easter caterpillar this time. Midsummer? No, it's not yet.
I'm keeping the door open because it's so warm. So if it's noisy or whatever, let me know and I can close it. But I would rather
Yeah,
not.
it's really getting better.
Dude, every day before summer where it's like plus 20 degrees is my favorite day of the year because it's just like a free day of summer and you're not spending real summer. That all this real summer is still left. You're just getting free summer days.
So it is like a free day of summer.
Yeah, it's
I
awesome.
like
It's my
it.
favorite day.
Yeah, man. It really like I mean you have to stick to the notion that like you love seasons because like that's the situation. There's no getting
I
around
hate
it. You might as
seasons.
well love seasons.
I hate
But
seasons.
still, yeah, you really like every spring you realize how much you love some of the seasons more than the others.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I love the fall. Dude, it's just
Yeah.
cope.
Yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. I don't. I just
Yeah.
like it warm and
You're just
nice.
trying to survive and telling yourself a
Where
story.
yeah, it's like every October or September or whatever when I need to wear socks again. I'm like, oh, dreading
You
the
like
next
the
8 months.
weather. You like the weather in Denmark in May because that's the weather that humans were intended to be in.
That's
And
right.
and the rest of the year you're just sort of wishing the weather was like that, but you won't admit it to yourself.
This is actually something that I think about. Like, how could early uh, people, humans, why would they ever move to colder regions? Like, how
Did
did
they?
someone end up in Norway? Like, how and why? What's the deal? Tell me, Peter.
Well, there was like cheap salmon or something like that. I don't know.
There's no sauna at this point. There might be more
Salmon,
fish.
the fish,
Oh
salmon,
yeah. Cheap salmon.
and wood and stuff like
Oh
that. I
man.
don't know.
Yeah, it must be like I need to find an ancient Norwegian
To
and
ask,
ask them, What are you doing?"
they
And
might speak
why?
Danish.
At this point, makes sense that they're staying because like the
They have
money.
the sovereign wealth fund.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They have that, but that's
Yeah,
mostly it. And skiing, of course, way
yeah.
easier. So maybe that's it. That's what the cavemen craved. The cavemen at one point wanted to ski and then moved to Norway.
But maybe the climate was different. I don't know. But
Yeah, I don't know.
regardless, the
Yeah,
only
you want to
thing
get back on track.
the only thing I can think of right now is AI. That's all that's going on in my head is AI
Nice.
related things. So that's unless you want to talk about something else, I just want to
Why
talk
did
about
the
AI.
first AI move to? I don't know. Yeah. So what's on your mind?
Well, I've just been tinkering a lot in the past week. We've had like some ideas at Tailwind, which is like one of the reasons I got interested in some of these things. And then the other thing is like I'm basically trying to like automate my own job away, which is kind of interesting
Which of them? The
experience.
tailwind one.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
I talked about last time the how I automated some of the refund stuff with like a Chrome extension. I think I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, you did. Yeah. That was
Yeah.
really fancy.
So the next thing I sort of got curious to explore is like how can AI do more in in our backend basically, which is based on Laravel Nova, which is like an admin dashboard for Laravel. And then I started thinking like, well, because the Chrome extension I built sort of relies on just like calling the internal API because it's an SPA, right? So there is an API, but it requires a browser session. And I was like, if an AI needs to call this, it's not a browser session, so it can't just be like logged in. So it needs to be some sort of authentication. And I was like, and really, it should just be an MCP server with all the tools available in Nova should just be exposed in an MCP server. And then I just went down a really big, deep rabbit hole and started learning about MCP servers and try to figure out how to build one with Laravel. And I got pretty far with it. I got like a working prototype basically. I don't know if you saw my tweet, but I basically had I had an MCP server where I could ask Claude or Cursor about users in my Nova instance, or like in Nova basically, right? So it had access to Nova search through the MCP server. So I could, like in the tweet, I was like, can you check if we have a user named Peter? And we did, which was me.
All right.
But it also worked with the name Adam, you know?
Oh, nice. So, so will it work with the name Steve as well, do you think?
It might work with Steve and it might work with Jonathan as well.
All right, yeah. I saw you got an emoji response from the guy himself.
Yeah.
Mr. Laravel.
Yeah. It was cool that he saw it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what isn't an MCP server, Peter? Is it not just an API?
Well, it's it's been such an interesting journey because when you read the protocol, it's like, okay, yeah, this is just like a form of API for like agents and stuff. And then when you start actually playing with it, it's like, but like none of it works yet. It's like the tools themselves, like Claude and Cursor, they don't have support for like half the stuff that's in the protocol yet. So it seems like really obvious how you do something, but then you start doing it, it's like, but you can't do that yet because it's unsupported.
Yeah.
Yeah, the clients. The whole thing about like what's a server and what's a client is kind of confusing too, which I'll get to. But yeah, basically where I started was like, my understanding was like you call some sort of endpoint and it just returns like a list of, for example, tools. In the MCP protocol, there's like different things you can make available. One is tools. Another one is a tool is like if you want to make like a search or something like that available, or like if you have an API for something and you want to like let someone get the weather or something like that, they'll call the get weather tool, right? But then there's also prompts, which is if you have an AI on your end that you're exposing through an MCP server. So if you have an AI that you want other AIs to be able to talk to, you can take prompts, but that's like Nova is not an AI, so prompts doesn't make sense in the Nova case. And then there's something
is like an MCP server prompting another MCP server.
Yeah, let's say you have like an MCP server that's like has some specific knowledge about something or has access to some specific thing. You could, in theory, get one AI to call another AI.
Yeah. Hopefully, they can all just call each other very soon.
Yeah,
and we could retire.
Like if Tailwind UI or Tailwind Plus, sorry, I didn't say that. Can we cut that out?
No.
I'm so fired. If we had like an AI that could customize components for you, we could have a Cursor could send a prompt to our AI to get back like custom components.
All right, yeah.
It's just a random example. But yeah, then there's also something called resources, which is like more like static data. Like it could be like API documentation or I think an interesting use case there that we sort of thought about is like stuff that's like rules, basically like Cursor rules and stuff. Could be an interesting resource to have in an MCP server, so Cursor can like fetch rules as a resource. But Cursor doesn't support resources yet, even though it sounds so simple. It's just like basically like static content uh, it's not supported. And the reason it's actually like more complicated than tools is because tools is like the AI just says like, uh, yeah, I want to call the get weather tool, and I get some
Yeah.
stuff back, and then I do something with it. Whereas the resources doesn't really make sense to call all the time. Like let's say Stripe had a resource resources set up for their docs, then every time you had to do something with Stripe related, you had to call to get the resource again. Like the resource is more static in nature, so
Right.
it's kind of something you want Cursor to keep in its memory somehow. Like you want to cache it somehow. And but if it's a big resource, you don't want it to be too big because you don't want to call like three different resources and now your context window is filled with that stuff. So it's like
Yeah.
it's actually the resource stuff is like more complicated on the client side to implement in a good way, I think. And I think that's why it's in the protocol yet now, but it's not supported yet in the tools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So the
That's
resources stuff didn't really is not really available yet. So if you're using Cursor, like the only thing you can do with an MCP server right now is adding tools, which is more like like an API. Yeah, that's much more like an API.
yeah. But still can be useful, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So basically, what I was trying to do with Nova is like, okay, I need to figure out like my first thing was just like try to figure out like how can I even just have like like can I figure out how to make like a Laravel route be an MCP server entry point basically, and then I used ChatGPT and stuff to build some like the output so it was sort of structured in the right way according to the protocol and stuff like that. But every time I tried it, it just couldn't connect to it, and I was like, there's something like crucial I'm missing here. And then I found out that like at least Cursor, I think, if I understood this correctly, and maybe even Claude, you can't connect them to a web URL. Even though in the protocol the entry point for an MCP server can be like a command line thing, or it can be like a web endpoint, like an HTTP request. They actually don't support that yet. So, but I hadn't picked that up because it's still documented in the protocol, but the clients or what you want to call them, the SDKs, not the SDKs actually, but the clients like Claude, Desktop, and Cursor, for example, they don't support it yet. So it's like, huh. And then I started looking like there's a lot of like example MCP servers in their official repo, like, and I was like, how's the GitHub one built? And then I realized, okay, so they just have like a command line tool that's like you install it with npm, and it's just like a TypeScript script, that just literally just is calling. It's just making the GitHub is basically just like a proxy between what an MCP server expects stuff to look like, or an MCP server should look like, and then the GitHub API endpoints.
Yeah.
So every time they like add a tool, which is like with the TypeScript SDK, it's literally just like MCP dot tools, and you can just like there's just a function to like add a tool. Did I cut out? Oh, I'm still here.
Yep. Nope. Cut out.
Did I cut out
But
again?
you're back.
Yeah,
Nope, you're back.
I'm back. I'm back. Yeah, so you literally just like add these functions as tools, and they become available on the server with this TypeScript SDK that's like the official one. And then each of those tools is just basically calling an endpoint and sending some data back. Like a good example is the tutorial they have on the website is like it calls like the National Weather Services API, and it pulls out the weather data, and then it just returns it in like some structured text. So it's like temperature colon, and then the temperature, and like wind colon, and just so it's like easy for the LLM to understand it, right? There's no specification for how it should be returned. You can just return it in whatever way you want, even though people tend to do it in JSON for now. Yeah, so then I was like, okay, so that's actually probably a much easier way to do it, because there are already packages for Laravel to do MCP servers, but it's like some random person and it's 3 stars, and like it's just hard to know if it's any good. But it seems like for now at least, like the right way to do it is to make some API endpoints available. You can add whatever authentication stuff you want. That's really easy with Laravel. And then you just build this MCP server, which is actually a client of your API, even though it's called a server because it acts as a server, but it's tech
Like a middleman.
it's more client than it's a server in my head because it's it's calling all these API endpoints. Um, so yeah, it is sort of like a proxy or a middleman. And then the way you do that is the way you use it is like in Claude or in Cursor, you have like an mcp.json file, and you can list your servers there. And then instead of listing a URL, which doesn't work apparently, you list like, the command is like npx or node, and then the argument is like the path to the script, the server, right?
Right.
If it's published on npm, it's like npx, and then the handle for your server on the the direct, what is it called, like npm thing.
Yeah. The package definition, I guess. The
Yeah.
dependency definition.
No, the website, like it's literally hosted, like where you install it from, npm.org. I don't know I don't even know what it's called.
Oh yeah, that's npm dot something.
Yeah, right.
npm
But it's basically
js.com.
yeah, something like that. And that's how you sort of interact with it. And then it just sort of works. Like then you can add it to a cursor, and then you can just start asking like I also did like a demo for like how it would work for Tailwind Plus. So I made some like stuff just in Tailwind Plus running locally on my Mac. Like I made some stuff available as JSON, and then I put like an MCP server in front of it, and then I did it for like buttons, and then I could be like, can you like give me a button from Tailwind Plus and make it green? And then it would take the correct like markup that was made available through the MCP, and it just changed the color, and that worked. And it was like really smooth actually. And it's really easy to build them once you sort of have the structure. And if you just use the TypeScript SDK, it's really easy it's very simple. So the feature set is also simple for now, but it's still cool. Yeah, so that's how I got it to work in the end. The Nova story was more complicated because it was hard to make an API available via Nova, because Nova assumes that you're logged into the browser and there's a browser session.
Yeah.
But you can build it's called tools, but it's like a package for Nova, and it actually gives you like an API routes file, but it still assumes that you're using that as in like the single page application with someone who's logged in a browser. But then I somehow, with the help of like O3 and just like trying 100 different things, found out that you can sort of split. You can pick what middleware you include for Nova, and you could just basically include all the Nova related middleware that it needs to work, but exclude the authentication stuff. And then in addition to that, install all the Laravel API the API authentication stuff. And then you basically can expose an API from Nova that has access to all the functionality that Nova has. Like for example, like an action we have in Nova is process refund. And that's something that would be cool to make available from the MCP server. So if I'm processing a refund for someone, I can just tell Claude or whatever, like process a refund for this person, and it could just use the MCP server to do it. So yeah, but I got it to work in the end, and so I have a way now to make anything in Nova available as an API, which is all I need to make it available in the MCP server. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously the cool thing would be to like make this a package that anyone could use for Nova. So then it's a little bit more tricky because the API authentication is like hard to like bundle with a package, especially if they already have it installed in their app. So it's like that part is like I haven't figured out yet, but it would be cool if there's a way to turn this into like an actual package that other people could just install in their Nova instance and have like have all their AIs be able to talk to it.
Yeah. My experience so far with MCPs is like to try and add Sentry's MCP to my app, and then it not working, and then not really figuring out what I needed MCPs for, because
what does that
It's just like it can list your issues and projects on Sentry. So ideally, you can just tell it to fix issue number XYZ, and it'll fetch all the info from Sentry and get on with it. Uh,
Why do you need to install
um,
it in your app or in Claude or something like that? Or
yeah,
what do you
yeah,
mean?
yeah. So Cloud
Yeah,
Code
yeah, okay,
locally
yeah.
knows how to integrate with the My Sentry. I mean, as you know, like production environments has so much info that you don't have locally. So sometimes you need all the extra info. Like that's what makes it easy to debug. And it didn't work, so that's how far I got. But in
And it didn't work.
yeah, and in but like working with Rails or GitHub, for example, Cloud Code can like manage the clients, like the terminal clients, very easily. So it knows how to pull up your routes, for example, for Rails app, which was something that would be supplied by an MCP, or to like fetch issues or pull requests from GitHub. It knows how to use the GH command line tool to fetch those. So it's like, are we putting the MCP in front because it's makes things easier, or is it just like, would it be, can we just skip it and then just use the clients directly? Especially if you have like the situation like you would describe with the, where it almost just becomes a middleman between you and the client. I mean, why then?
Are you pronouncing CLI Cly?
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
yeah, client.
Just want to be sure. Just never heard that before.
So many words that you sometimes you like arrive at the word and realizing that you've never spoken it out loud before. But apparently I say Cly, yeah, Cly.
Yeah, apparently. Um, yeah, I agree. Like, I think, but I think it makes more sense for like apps and stuff. You know, like Nova, like project management tools, stuff like that. Where it's like, hey, it would be nice for Claude to have access to my to-doist somehow. I don't know, like grab my to-dos and ask me if I've done it and then mark them. Like that's actually like something I've talking to Adam about a bit. Like if we aren't like keeping Trello or whatever Basecamp up to date, like it actually just feels like something an AI should be able to do. Like just figure out if people did the thing or if they're working on it right now, and then just move it to that right column, just so you always have like a picture of where things are at. But
Yeah, I think actually, like when I do tell it to create a pull request or keep tracking a pull request or anything like that, it's really good at it. And the same thing was when I used Markdown files as just like state management. It was really good at it. So I think we should just like the the thing is to just lean into that and like make it keep
lean
track.
in.
Yeah, lean in.
Be a strong woman.
Did you hear about the book? Apparently, there's like something in it where you have to like cuddle with her. That's part of the leading
On
in.
the private jet.
The private jet. Yeah, yeah. It's just like somehow it's a relief that it's not only men being like horrible.
Was that the
horrible.
Løkkeberg and Croydon podcast?
Yeah, I
Do you
love it.
listen? Are you listening to that? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we've
I just
never
got the
talked about
T-shirt
it, but
today.
we have never talked about it. But I always listen to it and think I'm sure Mikkel listens to this as well.
Yeah, I'm a huge Rune Løkkeberg fan
Yeah,
boy.
I think that's why most people listen to it, not because they're afraid of the other guy. Anyways,
Yeah, probably maybe. Yeah,
it's a Danish reference. It's
that's
just
a
like
Danish reference.
it's the old Danish minister of finance, I guess, who sold all our energy infrastructure to J.P. Morgan and then
It was
quit.
it wasn't JP Morgan, it was the other one.
Morgan
It was
Chase,
no.
Stanley,
No. The big one. Biggest. What's it
Goldman
called?
Sachs.
Goldman Sachs. That's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was from like the Socialist Democratic Party,
Social
and
Democrats,
then,
yeah.
and then he became the editor in chief of like,
Business newspaper.
yeah, which is like feels like a switch, a flip.
I don't know. I think he was just always very pragmatic. And like if you want to decide stuff in Denmark, you need to be a social democrat. It's almost
Right.
like
I
that's
like him for
the
a very specific
baseline
reason.
requirement. Sorry.
I like him for a very specific reason, which is that he sounds like one of my friends.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, anyways, this is too random for most people.
It must be.
But yeah,
All
lean
right. Yeah.
in more.
Lean in to the using
Channel
AIs to
Sandberg.
keep track,
Yeah.
like the meta work, I guess. Um, so that's what you've been up to with the AI. Is that the full story?
Yeah, I made some progress on my security tool as well. I I really wanted to like
Security. Oh, that's a hunch.
the hunch. Yeah,
Yeah.
I I have like a very I have the APIs basically working now in like not the prototype but like the real Laravel app. So the API is basically working. I sat with my friend Visti until like midnight, I think, one day on Tubal and just figured out like how to play. Like we played around with like different models and see how they worked. And it was just something I hadn't even. Well, I probably would realize it at some point, but I was just using GPT 4.0 to do the checks, and I don't even think about it very much. But like he was just starting to ask about the price and stuff, and it just hadn't even crossed my mind that I had to worry too much about the price because it's still so cheap. And we started looking at the pricing model. It's like, well, there's a mini version that's like a tenth of the price. And he was like, what if you swap it out with that? It's like, I mean, I guess we should try. And it just still worked.
Yeah.
So I think like we also tried GPT 4.1 Nano, which is a little bit more expensive than 4.0 Mini, but still like cheaper than just 4.0. And it's a 4.1 model. So I think it's newer and probably better. And that one's really good actually. And I just kind of liked the output more. Like I ask it for a reason as well that I store as part of the product. Like you get the reason for why it reject like it how it why it made a decision about something. And I like the reason more with the 4.1 model. And yeah, so
So the nano one.
yeah, the nano one. But then what I realized is like there's not much like reasoning in the use case I have. Like I think basically my conclusion was like if this doesn't work, like if there's something this doesn't catch, I don't think the solution is to get a better model. I think the solution will almost always be to improve the prompt because it just feels very much like as long as it has the right context about what you're trying to screen for, it's going to be very good at that. Like it's going to be very good at like understanding if it's within the acceptable use case spectrum or not.
Yeah.
And if it's not like a question of like, oh, we need like a 10 times better model. It's like, no, we just need to like make it even more clear what we're looking for.
Yeah, you can like it's almost like you're front loading the reasoning. So just do the reasoning once and include it in every prompt instead
Yeah.
of yeah.
That's another thing we thought about is like if you take one of the really expensive reasoning models and just ask it to like you just basically very like briefly describes what is this intended for? Like just to make sure everyone knows what I'm talking about. Like let's say you have a form builder. When someone creates a form in your form builder, the acceptable use might be like they're doing customer surveys, contact forms, stuff like that. And the restricted use or the something that would violate what that resource is used for, I think called prohibited use, would be like creating a fake login form for phishing. Like if you just gave that to like one of the really expensive reasoning models, I think it could write a really good description of like it could understand what you're trying to convey and write it really clearly. And then you could do like a super cheap model to do the checks.
Yes.
And the other thing about the 4.1 nano model, I think so 4.0, the full model it's still fast, but it still takes like 1.5 seconds maybe to run a check. Then if you go to the mini model, it's like maybe 1.2 seconds before it returns. Well, this is the full circle of my Laravel app as well, but obviously most of the work is waiting for the API. But on the nano one, it's like consistently below 1 second, which is like at that point you don't like if someone is creating a form in a form builder, it's not the form submission, it's the people creating the form. They're publishing the form. That's basically when you would check it, right? Is almost you almost can just wait if it's like
Yeah.
900 milliseconds. It's not even really worth like doing it asynchronously, which is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you need like it's almost like
1.5 second is like it's like a little long, but 900 milliseconds is like not very bad.
Yeah, just make the submit button go disabled while it's working. I think that's enough. In that case.
Yeah. So that's the main learnings there. And then the thing I did is like I don't have anything yet to like really share with the first like potential pilot customer, but I just still felt like I need to check in with them and send them something. So I actually used O3 to generate like a documentation 1-page side for the app, and it turned out really well. Like I obviously tweaked it a bunch and iterated on it, but just like it explains the product at the top, and then it shows like some examples of the endpoint and like how to call it, and like some best practices it came up with and stuff like that. And it just feels like very like a real product, even though it's still like being developed. And I sent that to them as like if any one of the developers on the team wants to take a look. And it felt like a cool thing to send them. Like, here's the docs for the product. Yeah. And I put it on a Notion site and just like published it as like a web page, right? It's really neat.
That's really neat. So you've been juggling models.
Just AI all the way down.
Just AI things.
Yeah. How about you?
I've been working on mostly my Funnymost service.
Oh yeah.
So Tenor is charging today again, and of course breaking records. But that's old news at this point, right? Nobody wants to hear it. Still no international projects, but at some point, I was thinking actually that.
Hey, before you give your update, I want to share the thing that I sent to you. What I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts in Danish, and they have this journalist on that she had like a true crime podcast that was really popular, and now I think she has another podcast. I'm not actually sure what she does right now. She's really annoying because she's like known for like interrupting everyone. So it's the only review they get is like, why is she always interrupting?
Yeah, that's
I'm sure she's a nice person, but she just interrupts a lot.
Yeah.
And I think she even is aware, like I think she even like comments on it sometimes. That is just her thing.
Wow.
But yeah, they were talking about like this whole like wave in Denmark right now, where there's like people on one side saying like, hey, you need to slow down and like move to a small island and like, get off the rat race. And then other people saying like, no, you need to be like, that's like society is going to break down if everyone does that. You have to like work for like the common, like you have to be like, you have to show solidarity with the rest of society, whatever. And
if that's the thing that's happening in Denmark, I've completely missed it.
Really?
Yeah,
Jesus Christ. So. Yeah. It's a big thing right now. and they were talking about that, and she was giving the example of her like sort of she's becoming like independent now, and sort of like she's sort of an influencer. At least it's very similar to being an influencer because she's living off her podcast now. And she said like, yeah, like myself, like I'm a full-time podcaster now, and my income is like tenor and sponsorships and ads. And I was just like, wow, that's crazy. And then I messaged you about it, and you didn't even know who she was. And she just mentioned like your product as like her like primary source of income, which is insane. And it's very cool, dude. I was telling Maya about it, and she's like, wow, that's cool. It is very cool. I just wanted to give you that. I want to give you that moment.
Yeah, that's really nice, and I really do enjoy that I'm helping so many folks make a living from their thing. It used to be that it was like 2-3 projects that were the big ones, and then everyone else was just sort of like the long tail of almost barely making any money. Yeah. But now it's like 15-20 projects that share most of the big cake slice, I guess. So yeah, it's nice, and I really do like it. But uh, uh so
Sorry,
yeah, what was
I
I was going
derailed
to say that I just today had an idea for how to break into Sweden, the Swedish invasion.
you. Oh, nice. I like this.
Which is, I was thinking like, how do I reach creators in another country? Like, where do they hang out? How do I like break through? Because I don't know any, and I don't know any people who know any. Apparently, it seems like. So I don't have a direct connection, but I thought of maybe this could be a place where Instagram ads would make sense. So like make some story, like an Instagram ad, real format story thing. I think some social proof mentioning one of the Danish projects, like make it about them and how much they're making on tenor, and then maybe even telling the story of like I, I'm making this much from my creative project, but it's in Denmark. Like that's the only thing that makes this different from anything in your situation. And this is a
Yeah,
tenor.
I like that idea a lot. But I want you to try leaning into the Danish person tries to speak Swedish thing as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. Hejsan allihopa.
Hey, son.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe that could be
Because
fun. Like
it has to be funny. These people have a
the
high bar for like things to be funny,
that's right. That's right.
especially if they're comedians.
The
Are there any Swedish comedians? Probably not, right? Because they
yeah.
aren't very funny.
It, shots fired. There are some. It's funny because Norwegian and Sweden and Danish humor, it's like slightly different. It's the same in
Is
some
Swedish
ways, but
comedians
still
where they just
very
speak
different.
Swedish and it sounds funny because they speak Swedish?
Yeah, they say the same, Peter. So don't worry. Uh, yeah, so that's an idea I got related to tenor, but mostly I've been working on Funny Most, making it into a real product. It's my thing that my comedian friends are using to sell their specials, like the recorded stand-up specials, to directly to their fans. And
It's your CD, baby.
yeah, 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 almost, yeah. And it's like you have to be of a certain size before it makes sense because many of the smaller ones, it just makes more sense for them to put it up for free on YouTube because they get the views instead, and they can't sell it to TV, and they like, and that's just fine. That's like part of it. But some of them are big enough that they can make some like reasonable money from selling it directly as a digital download, I guess. And so they've been just always asking me if I can do it, and I built a thing, but I never really released it. So it was like very concierge service where I would set everything up, and it's built on top of Stripe Connect as well as like Tenor is, and then a service called Mux. Do you know of it?
Mux, MUX, like
MUX,
the
yeah.
video thing.
It's almost like Stripe but for video, yeah. So you just upload a file and it'll transcode it and all that
What
stuff.
does that mean?
Transcode means like making four versions in different qualities. So it like automatically degrades if the connection is bad. Like if you're on your internet, Peter, you would see
Like
like some
YouTube.
grainy shit, some real grainy shit.
No, my download is fine. It's
All
my
right,
upload.
okay, yeah. But those of us on grown-up internet, we grown-up internet connections, we'll see some nice 1080p. I think even 4K is supported. Anyway, so it works, and I'm just opening it up so you can sign up if you want to. I'm slightly worried that it'll bring some spam or like copyright issues, but I like wait until it happens before I worry anymore about it.
I might have a thing for it.
Oh yeah, hunch. That's right. Maybe I'll be the first user. Yeah, and like I was, and this is a thing that I've been like typically just can put off for decades. This is the actual case. I think is like some market research positioning thoughts. Like, how do I like just thinking about researching the market and looking into competitors and all that? It just doesn't happen on my watch.
Well, but it's like you started this thing because your friends needed it, and I think it's awesome. You just sort of, you didn't build the full product. You just made something they could use, even if you had to manually set everything up for them. That's awesome. That's like that's the right way to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess that I'm good at that part, to like minimally viable products. I'm actually very good at like scoping, decreasing
Barely viable.
scope. Yeah, yeah. Like really. That's the thing that I like, cutting into the what's the core of this idea. I think that's one of the things that I am actually good at. That's also the case with all the like the hobby Mac apps that I make. It's like one idea baked in, like not baked in, but like boiled down to like the essence,
It's
and then
almost
it's
like
just that.
content, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's the
Like you
same thing
can't
I do
write a
when I
book.
write an article.
You can't write a book with like two good ideas. Like there should be two books. You
Yeah,
should
yeah.
always have to be able to just like condense it down to like one good idea. I feel that a lot of products are like that. Like, what's the idea? What's the one idea here? Like, what's the one thing we're trying to make people do differently? Or, but yeah, I think you're good at that.
Yeah, I think
Don't spend
Jason
too much
Fried.
time on market research.
Jason Fried is his it's his thing where it's like when you write something, you should be able to write the one page version, the one paragraph version, the one sentence version, and then like the
I told someone about
one
that
wink of an
today,
eye
actually.
version.
Someone at my office today, I told them about his blog post, the
Mm,
college class he wants to teach, or whatever it's called.
it's actually good. I was
It's really
gonna
great. I know it from
yeah.
you.
So the same thing but for products. But what I did was like I asked O3, the newest
The good one.
reasoning model, the
So
good
good.
one. And it's like it's a reasoning model and it has access to all the tools. So I thought like this is the perfect model actually to ask for something like this. And I sent you the results, but just like for everyone listening, I just wrote what like 3 paragraphs about the product. So it's like a SaaS product. It's already in production. It's helping my friends sell their comedy specials. Works like this. Works like this. It's all Danish. Uh, and then I wrote like my current take is, and then a few things that I've just like learned over the years from talking to my friends about what they actually want. So they want like simplicity. They want authenticity. So like uh, being able to sell it directly from their own site and not going through a middleman and all that. Um, they don't want to do support, for example, and just that my pricing is simple. Actually for this product I've been trying out a few things, which is not very typical me. But I read that you should you should try things with the pricing. So some are charged like percentage wise, but that's a problem when they're like they choose the price for their special. So if they sell it like for 80 kroner, I make one thing, and then if they like bring down the price, I make less, but I'm like delivering the same service. So that didn't even make sense for me actually. So now it's like a fixed price per sale. And yeah, so I asked the O3 to like, can you investigate the market? What are the alternatives? Anything for comedians specifically? How do I differentiate? And then help me sharpen my value prop, which is a term that I've heard before. And then help me validate my pricing strategy. And it thought for 2 minutes and 12 seconds. And it's just like such a good answer. It's like all the competitors with like tables comparing them. And there's like,
Oh, I love the tables.
yeah, yeah, it's just so good. And like, is the flat fee sustainable? It has like example sale prices, and then if it costs this, and it makes this much sense, and it's just it's crazy. And it felt like in like those 2 minutes and 12 seconds, I got at least a few weeks worth of work just served. And then not even that, I could like ask follow-up questions. So like, okay, but what about this thing then? And it feels like unless you tell it otherwise, it sort of decreases the amount that it thinks about each
Yeah.
answer as you go on in the thread. I don't know if that's like just the nature of the context window having more at that point, or is like instructed to do so. But that was an interesting part. And then
Well, and also it does a lot of like it. I always see it like it does a lot of like it's uses a lot of sources, and then if you don't need new sources for
yeah,
the reply, it's short, it's faster.
yeah, that's probably right. And then at some point it started like to take its own examples as a fact. So, for example, my friend Sophie Hain, which she's like a comedian that's moved to Britain and have actually made a career of herself in English. And at some point, it's like suggested that I use her as an example, and then later on in the thread, is like because I didn't push back on that idea, it just took it as fact that I had her in like on the product. So yeah, so you have to be aware still that like there was like genuine
Yeah,
hallucination on your
it
own
gets
part.
too confident in those situations. I've seen that too. Like then, if you talk to it for a while, it definitely starts to like, yeah, lock in on like stuff that it said before, and yeah, I know exactly what you mean when you say
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So it's just like as the further down I went in the thread, the less helpful it actually became.
Yeah, it's definitely
So
the initial resources like the gold.
yeah, so that's when I like tried to make it summarize what we've uh, come up with so far, so I could bring it to another chat, and it included all sorts of bullshit that it just had like suggested at one point. And I was like, okay, so they need to tell it to like skip that part. That's not true. Skip that part. It's not true either. And then eventually got to a summary, which is then like nice because that summary you could just include in the project like a markdown file, and then tell it to all the LLMs. And then in the process of building the site, I extracted a way to add static pages to my Rails app, which is like
Oh yeah,
a problem that I always have. Everybody always has it, and it's like you just want the simplicity of just adding markdown files, and even better with a YAML front matter, you can give it like metadata. And there's some options for Rails, but they were all just slightly not it. And that's really something that I still struggle with to just accept that something isn't exactly what I want. And also, I think just last week on this podcast complained about other people feeling that way, but, but
yeah,
that's
that's
life,
true.
I think. Uh, so I built version of it, and it's just I don't know why I came up with the name Satanic Pages, but it's like the word static is so close to satanic.
It's like
Just,
Statamic, right?
yeah, almost that as well. So just went with it, and
I
then
thought it was hilarious. I sent it to Adam because I thought it was a great name, and I just knew he would like it.
and the fun thing is you can just ask the LLM. So ChatGPT wouldn't give me a drawing of what's his face, the like the goat-headed man is the devil. Uh, ChatGPT wouldn't do it, but Midjourney just fine would give me a pencil sketch of him reading a book. So you could just like generate fun images and illustrations for your stupid open source projects. And at one point,
Yeah,
I worried that like, what about the Christians? Will they will they not use my project because it's like has references to the devil? And I was like, maybe that's a maybe
it's a
maybe I
price you're
don't
willing to
want
pay.
too many users for this. Maybe it's actually a bonus that people are scared of. I'm built it mostly for myself, but yeah, I don't know. But
I thought it
like
was hilarious.
that's good. That's good. That's good at least. Uh, so another open source project under my wing. Just what I needed.
Congratulations.
Just what I needed, Peter. Uh, but really, like the O3
You're gonna
model.
do a video about it?
Yeah, I could. I think I should actually um, run through how it works. I think the usage is almost too simple to make a whole video about it, but describing how it works could be a thing. And yeah, yeah,
Maybe you could do like how I made an open source project from scratch
yeah,
using AI tools,
yeah, that's a good one
and you could talk
because
about the mid journey stuff too, and the naming.
Yeah. That's pretty probably good because initially I didn't actually use any code tools. I just like sat down with Vim and wrote it myself, which was
Like a
very
psychopath.
enjoyable. Yeah, very enjoyable, just like it used to be. But also because I knew that it was like very. It wouldn't take much code, but it had to be the right code. Does that make sense? So like I didn't want it to just bloat it with stuff to make it work. I want it to work right. And it works almost right, but at least I know the shortcomings and why things are the way they are. And that made a lot of sense. But then when it came to adding tests, for example, I used Cloud Code for that. Like write a test for this, and it's like bang, it's bam, it's there, and you can just like slightly modify it to make it work. So yeah, so I'm still like there's still a place for artisanal coding. Uh, yeah,
Maybe.
but the video, like the whole like the whole process video is a good idea. What's the prompt for? Yeah, I don't know. Why did I
Just like,
think a
yeah.
pencil sketch would work? What's the prompt? What's yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's
all of
just a
that.
lot of like little considerations when you're doing an open source project,
Yeah,
and whether even to open source it. And so
yeah,
I think that could be a good video.
yeah.
And
I
it's
did
sort of like clickbaity, which is good.
also good. I did one slightly long video, about 45 minutes, about vibe coding, which was just like actual vibe coding features in Leader Key, and that worked all right. It's not the most popular one, but at least some people responded in the comments that they wanted more devlog style videos. Yeah, I don't know. It's really like the most popular ones are still the Leader Key introduction ones. So like something like that is always tempts you to just lean into it just to get the vanity metrics going up.
Yeah.
But then again, that's not what is like a bæredygtigt approach. It's not a sustainable approach to it.
Yeah. People are asking me to do a talk on MCP servers now for Laravel.
Yeah,
So it's just what happens when you put yourself out there a little bit.
yeah.
And it is kind of
Definitely.
hilarious because in the morning I was tweeting, anyone have any experience doing an MCP server in Laravel? Clearly not knowing how to do it. And then the evening I posted a screenshot of me building one and it worked. And the next day it's like, oh, you should do a talk on this. You're clearly
Yeah.
the expert. You have 12 hours more experience than all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, but like that's a skill, Peter. That's a skill to go from nothing to something in 12
Yeah.
hours.
I wish I had your like I wish I could just like um I wish I could just wave a magic wand and have the ability to make videos like you do.
Oh, yeah,
Like I wish I
okay.
could just like, because I don't really want to learn how to do it, but I wish I could just like do a video like that. If it makes
Yeah.
sense.
You should it's not hard, it's just requires practice like everything else. So watch the first one I did and how bad it is compared to the last one I did. And then you should buy Aaron Francis's screencasting.com course and then
Yeah, I should actually.
not change anything about his like approach to it. So don't try to think that Final Cut may be easier or Screen Studio or whatever the hell they're called. Just like do exactly what Aaron does, and then when you've made 3 videos, you can start investigating other things.
That's a good advice.
And then, of course, yeah, it's just practice. It's
Awesome.
not hard, and all the things that you know from like audio editing and everything, it's just like it's the same.
All
All the
the
things you
things
know
I
from
know.
like writing articles, just the same. Like cut the bullshit, make it yeah. You can do it
I
if you
gotta
want to.
pick up
If
some
you really
kids
want to.
now.